Hello friends, welcome to Paul's Pictures. I've been asked by a few online friends to do a demonstration video of how I go about processing my street photographs, or at least some of them. So what we'll do is I generally 90% of the time all I ever use for my processing is Lightroom, and in this case it's Lightroom 3.5. so if you've got 3.4 or 3.3, there are upgrades that are free, so just click on update and you'll get them. Don't know what changes have been made, but I imagine that they're behind the scenes somewhere. The Lightroom is opened up in the develop module, but normally speaking, general rule, you would open up in the library. So in order to get to the develop module, you either click on here or click D on the keyboard for the shortcut. Now, a couple of weeks ago I went to a local market and didn't take all that many images. It was not an overly inspiring day. It was a very sunny day, but one of them that stood out for me was this lady who was a stall holder and did not seem to object to being photographed. One of the myths of street photography is that people don't like to be photographed, and I found that that's actually not only not the case, but it's actually opposite to what happens generally speaking in reality. First thing I like to do is just make sure that these triangles here on the histogram are turned on so that we can see, in this case, the underexposed areas under a hat and her glasses, and the overexposed areas, which are the bottle tops here and this bit on the grass and just a bit up there. I generally work down the list of controls here, so I don't worry too much about the white balance in well, next thing I should do is convert to black and white, which you can do by clicking on here, or it's V on the keyboard. Now we're down here to the exposure. I would probably like to take the exposure down just a bit, which gets rid of a bit of the highlights, but of course makes all this underexposed areas worse. So to fix that, we'll jump fill light for a sec and we'll take the blacks out. That way we can see a little bit more clearly what we're doing. Recovery will probably get rid of most of those highlights. The recovery brings out the detail in blown out highlight areas. So that's what we'll do with that. And fill light. This will give us more detail, obviously, in the darker shadow areas. As I'm doing this, I'm seeing that perhaps this is a bit much here, all this. Some people might like it, and oftentimes I'd probably leave it because the focus is pretty good. There's a clear distinction, clear separation between the subject here and the background. But let's see what we look like, the image looks like when we crop it a bit. So we click on this square here, which gives us the crop rectangle. I like most of the time lately to keep things in proportion, the original proportions. So it's keep your finger on shift and drag down the corner. Now we'll just drag down to her hand there because this is quite a nice hand gesture. So in order to get rid of more of this, we'll need to again shift and drag down here. Cuts off a bit of the back of the subject, but I think that's going to look okay. Some people might think this is a bit extreme. Perhaps I do as well at the moment, so we might take that back just a touch. Not much, but just a bit, because then we've got now some detail here of this person's legs and a bit of shadowy stuff here, so we can see that there's a bit of activity here. Right, so we've done the fill light, which has filled out this area, and what's resulted is quite a lot of noise here, but we'll get rid of some of that later. Don't have to get rid of it all, it's a black and white image after all. I like her face now. In fact, if we up the clarity here, leaving the contrast for the moment actually, because we'll deal with that as an automatic thing as we change other settings. We're getting a bit more detail here in the glasses. This is a sound stage and a stall here behind, so it's quite okay there. So now we'll go down to the tone curve. Put this one on strong contrast because we want to increase the contrast. That's darkened up here. and obviously lightened up some of the lights. But we'll bring back some of the highlights that we've actually gotten rid of already. Oops, not that many. We don't want to overdo it here. A bit more in the lights, so that makes it a bit glary. Obviously it was a very glary sunny day, so now we just take that down a little bit. Sometimes you can take it down a lot, but don't want to lose too much. That's still okay. Maybe we can use the brighten control a bit later, and we'll leave that about there. I don't think we want to really touch the shadows, no, too much. So we'll leave that about like that. I think in this case we could probably afford to go back up to the contrast, take that up a bit, or no, I think we're going to be losing too much detail in both the highlights and the darker areas here. We could play around with the colours a bit. Let's look at the images side by side. Now in the original we've got a great big block of green here on the grass, and then the blue of the subject's sweater and her hat. So what we can do is play around a bit with the blue here, maybe darken it a bit, so we've got more of a contrast with the face. There's quite a lot of detail in the hat, so and this has got a bit of character here with all the bits and bobs and things on here, so I think that gives us a nice contrast. I don't think we'll play around with the green of the grass. I think, yeah, we don't want to make it too light, too over bright, and we don't want to make it too dark because everything just blends into nothing. So I think we'll leave it where it was. So we'll double click on the word green and it brings it back to 0, like with most controls on in Lightroom. Don't worry about split toning, or at least I don't. I'm not really familiar with that side of things. Now this is the time we're going to get rid of some of this noise. So we'll use the noise reduction tool under the detail tab here, which means we use the luminance slider, and we've lost some of this noise, but you need to be a bit careful with the luminance slider. We take it up too high and she's going to look like she's made of plastic. So while that might work in some subjects and it's an aesthetic choice, in this particular subject I'd probably leave it around near 20, so 18, something like that. Actually, maybe we could up that a bit more, maybe 25, and yeah, we've still got nice detail in her face. We can use this detail slider here. Need to be careful here. In some, especially colour images, you can get a lot of artifacting come if you up the detail. Now what we've got here is the masking. Now to actually bring back some of the sharpness we may have lost by using the luminance key, we need to sharpen. So the first thing, we mask out the areas we don't want to sharpen. So we hold down the Alt key, up the slider. As the black areas appear, they are the areas that are going to be protected from any sharpening that we apply to the image. So basically what we see now is the edges of things, and like her glasses and her teeth and so on. So now we can up the sharpening, but now we've done that, we're probably going to find that we need to cut down some of the detail on the radius. So basically I like to keep the radius below 1, so 0.5, which is pretty much the minimum. That's always a good bet for me. And the same with the masking, what am I doing? The detail, I'm sorry, down to pretty much not 0, but maybe 1 or 2, and I think I think that's probably about. So now we've got a lot sharper image in her glasses. Nice repeating of the sound shell here and the store. Now the only thing left to do is probably, I think, what we call the effects, and this is the vignetting and so on. I like to use the paint overlay. I don't find there's a lot of difference between the colour and, well, obviously being black and white, colour won't be too relevant, so highlight priority is not a huge amount of highlights here, so we use paint overlay. Now down to the left we're going to have a darker black vignette, so we can see what we can do there. We don't want that. And to the right we get the white, and we don't want that either. So let's take it back to the middle. So we've got a good starting point. I think we might want to have lighten it up a bit. Lighten it just fractionally, just +3 or something like that. We're not going to get that white mistiness in the corner. So I think basically that's pretty much a nice result for this picture. We've got a lot of good detail, nice happy smile, and a nice welcoming subject, and that's about it. So thank you for watching, and hope to be seeing you again sometime soon for my next video.